The Tadano ATF 70G is a 4-axle crane with a maximum capacity of 70 tonnes, and it can lift to a height of 61 metres. This model comes in a Tadano branded box, which is interesting because previous models were branded Tadano Faun, where Faun was the original German company that made the carrier. Sadly, there's no information at all provided about the real crane, and as always that seems like a bit of an opportunity missed. However, one very good thing is that there's a proper instruction manual for the model, and it's nice because it's a high quality professional piece of work. It's all in colour and includes a full parts list of what comes with the model, and there's a comprehensive set of instructions and photos which tells you pretty much everything you need to know. Hopefully one day all crane models will come with a proper manual like this. Inside the box there's the usual couple of expanded polystyrene trays, and you have to carefully cut round the factory ceiling and then you can lift the lid, whereupon the model is revealed, all carefully and tightly packed. So on with getting the parts out. The crane is ready reeved, there's an extension boom, the counterweight, and another couple of bags of small parts. For the initial assembly, we'll just put the crane in a road-going configuration, and the first thing to do is to put the counterweight onto the deck. The reason it's put there in the middle is to even out the loading across the tyres on the 4 axles. And this way it stops the rear axle from going moan, 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 because it's carrying more weight than the others. The other item to attach is the lattice extension boom, and it has a good positive connection because it's pinned securely, so it's not prone to sliding off when you raise the boom. Okay, so that's all of the parts fitted, so the only thing to do now is to tidy up the hook at the front. And to do that we'll let some rope out using the special key that's provided. And then the hook can be pulled down and it attaches onto the small loop that's at the bottom of the cab. And the purpose of that is to stop the hook swinging about like a handbag in a catfight. If in this context you're not sure what a catfight is, well, it's got nothing to do with animals. Unless that is you class girls as animals. The last thing to do before the crane can hit the road is to fit the safety cutout chain. This is there to prevent the hook being wound up too far and just to annoy everybody on putting it on upside down. But with the magic that is Cranes Etc, it suddenly appears the right way round. And with that done, the crane is ready for the road. Starting underneath, the detailing is intricate with the transmission to the rear 3 axles fully modelled. And a nice touch is that the wheel on the undriven front axle has a different hub design. The carrier cab looks good, it's got some tiny graphics and there's a ladder stored underneath. Things behind the cab look very good too, with fine quality meshwork and anti-slip surfacing. At the rear there are chevron graphics and the lights have plastic lenses. The outrigger beams are metal and the pistons have smooth cylinders. And the high standard continues with the cab, which has a very detailed interior. A particularly nice touch is the engine, which is also very detailed. There are small graphics and hydraulic hoses on the body, but a great feature is the main hydraulic ram, which is entirely metal. The boom is metal, but the main set of pulleys at the boom head appear to be a single piece. The extension boom is a finely crafted metal section, and the hook is a metal piece too. Reeving the hook can be a frustrating job on a model crane, but how's it done on the real thing? This hook is at the end of a big luffing fly jib and the hoist rope is just being pulled through. And once that's done, there's no mucking about trying to tie a knot in the end of the rope. Instead it just slots straight into place in the hanger. The next thing to do is to fit the chain for the hook height limiter up to the top of the boom. And then the 2 sides of the weighted end are clamped onto the hoist rope. And once that's fixed together, the end of the chain is just fitted to it. A final tug on the chain to check it's fitted properly, and then the hook's ready to go. So with that, it's over to the driver and he raises the main boom and with it the luffing jib, and that takes up the slack in the hoist rope. So there you have it. In real life, reeving the hook is a quick and easy job, and if only it was so easy in the scale model world. Out on the road you wouldn't normally see the crane driving like this, but all axles steer so you can replicate crab steering. And as each axle steers independently, you can set it anywhere you like, although the steering is notched on some of the axles. With all the steering off, it rolls well enough in a straight line, but it's not really free rolling, there's a bit of friction in the wheels. Looking underneath, one feature that is implemented very well is the suspension on each axle. It's fully sprung, and WSI have done a good job with the model engineering because all the suspension and transmission parts move correctly. And overall the range of movement is good, so you can give the crane a real bounce. Okay, it's time to set the crane up, so let's reverse into position and then we can extend the outriggers. These extend smoothly and they've got the neat little locking bar to lock the pads into a transport position. To lower the pads is easy, it's just twiddly fingers time. With the pad lowered you can see clearly how it slides in and out for transport mode. However, once it's centred you can lock it in place with the tiny little spring clips that WSI provide. And to complete the picture there's a plastic spreader plate you can put under each of the pads. With the pads down standing on the plate, then it holds the crane up high enough, and in fact it can go wheels free without any of the tyres touching the ground. Once the hook's released the boom can be raised and it's perfectly smooth and takes no effort on this model. And that's because the hydraulic ram cylinder jacket is metal. And the way you set a pose is by using an Allen key on a tiny grub screw at the top of the cylinder jacket. This is an excellent system that works really well, and you just need to make sure you turn the screw tight enough. With the boom up, the real crane would turn around and attach its own counterweight from the transport position. The model can't quite do that because the clip that's used sticks up, so it prevents the crane turning round. So we have to give the counterweight a hand job. The parts are all separate, so you can go for different configurations if you like, but we'll go for the max here and just attach the whole counterweight by pressing it up underneath the body. It's a simple push-fit connection which is tight enough, and the scaling is all good because when you rotate the crane there's no clash of any parts and it all rotates smoothly. One part included with the model is a metal weight to help keep some tension on the hook, and it's got the Tadano name on it. Now on to everyone's favourite part, which is extending one's boom. And the telescopic sections on this model pull out nice and smoothly, and they lock at full extension using the usual spring-loaded clip. To retract the boom the reverse process is followed and the spring clip is pushed in. However, with the boom up it's playtime and you can have fun operating the hook. This model does feature a couple of very nice opening covers. And with the first one raised you can see some really detailed and intricate modelling inside. The other opening cover is on the side, and the good thing is the hinges are tight enough so that the cover will stay posed open, and that's handy if you want to fix the engine using a microscope. We'll now move on to fit the extension boom to get some additional height, and the first thing we need to do is to remove the hook. You can see here the end of the rope has been held in place just like on a real crane, but you do have to cut the end off the rope to fully remove it from the hook. Next up, the extension boom gets unpinned from the side, and then we can bring it round and pin it onto the end of the boom. And that's easy to achieve using the two steel pins that are provided, and they're a good fit and they slide in quite easily. With the extension boom attached there are two configuration options. You can set it up either folded, or if you want the maximum length then you unfold it and then pin the joint. So the extension boom is fully attached and we can now set about running the hoist line, and the first thing to do is to raise a little guide pulley. And that's used to guide the hoist line when the extension boom is set at an angle. With the guide set, the end of the hoist rope just gets threaded through and pulled to the end of the extension boom. And there's some more threading to do to get it over the pulley at the end. Now this hook has only got two pulleys in it, so it won't hang right if you reeve it the way the manual shows. So I'm going to do my own thing and just run a single line of rope and carefully tie that off in the middle between the two pulleys, so that the hook will hang nice and straight. With the loose end of thread cut off, it hangs fine. One more thing to do, and that's to fit the safety cut-off chain, so we can just remove that off of the boom head and then reattach it at the end of the extension boom, although you might need some plastic putty to keep it in the hole because the fit's not so good. Lastly, the end of the chain is just clipped carefully onto the rope. Only one more feature to go, and that is the extension boom, which has a hydraulic cylinder so it can be set at an angle to provide additional reach. And it works on the model, and the cylinder is stiff enough to hold any pose you want to set. To wrap up, the Tadano ATF 70G is another high quality crane model from WSI. Particularly of note is the very high level of detail on the model, And there's an excellent range of features which make it very functional as well. And it's particularly good to see an entirely metal main boom ram. Overall, it's an outstanding crane model.